Hello, hello, my Soulpreneur Life family and friends. Welcome to the Soulpreneur Life podcast. This is the podcast that empowers you. It empowers you to build your soul-guided business, your soul-guided life, so that you can lead one of purpose and abundance and impact. I'm your host, Kendra Bolden, and in each episode, I do my best to share the tools, insights, and inspiration to help you tap into your inner wisdom, because you hold the power, you hold the keys. Create a business that aligns with you and your soul's purpose, and navigate the journey of soulpreneurship with confidence and grace. So make sure you hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and you can join me each week as I share and I invite and interview new guests. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned entrepreneur, this is the podcast for you. So let's go co-create. Today, we have a very special guest, and I'm excited to share. So before I get off on a tangent, Terrell is an author of a book called, and I have it right here, the author of the book, The Resurrection of S.E.L.F., and he serves as the facilitator of Divinity and Masculinity, which is located in Clarksville, Tennessee. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. He's also an entrepreneur who will be launching his business this summer. And his spiritual journey is one that I'm really excited for him to share with you all, because from what I've read in both his book and in conversations with him, it began after a chain of events that have happened kind of back to back, which often happen to many of us, right? Where something happens and we realize that we have to make huge change right after that, right? So I just want to welcome you to the podcast, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. And glad to be here. Hello, everybody out there. Like you said, everything that happened has led up to this point, and many more great moments like this to come. So I'm just excited to be here, to be able to have a conversation with you, and we just talk about, things that's going on in the world today with ourselves, and touch about, what's going on, how I got to writing the book, and things of that nature. So I'm just here to have this open dialogue, this open conversation, really work on that intuitive thing that I got going on right now. So just pulling a lot of things in perspective, going full circle, trying to stay balanced, things of that nature. So I appreciate you too, Kendra.
Oh, thank you. And I know you're traveling too. So I just want to say thank you for, even though you're on the road, staying committed to sharing what it is that you have to share with other people, even when it's not convenient. I think that is something that, as an entrepreneur, as a soulpreneur, as someone who is healing continuously, right? As soon as we find resistance, or we find an excuse or a wall that we could say, oh, no, I'm going to say no. And we just stop, right? Like there are some of us who just stop, and then there's some of us who go around or open up a window or go through a different door. So I just want to say that I appreciate you, because I know doing things like this when you're traveling, it takes a little bit of extra commitment and energy. So can you just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to write your book? And then we can talk about more of what's in it. There's like my ring lights on it, but
So excuse me, the book came about. It wasn't something that I planned. So going through my awakening and starting my journey back summer 2022, I've always been spiritual, but I never really put no emphasis on it. You know what I'm saying? I never really understood why I didn't dig church like that. And I'm not knocking it for those who do that. It's just, I'm just telling my story. And so when I really got into it and I started, I had a lot of answers questions, but no answers. So I started reading books. And the last time I had read a book was in 1998 when I graduated high school. So I tell you, like, I wasn't a reader, but I started reading books to navigate and find these answers. And the more that I read, the more that I realized that a lot of these answers was already in me. And the books were just more like a GPS to take me where I needed to go in order to get the answers that I was fulfilling, and it really drove me into the 7 Hermetic principles, the 12 universal laws, and the 7 laws of success, spiritual laws of success. Also, understanding the chakra system and Kundalini energy and understanding all that and really going within. So going through all that, I started to understand what it meant to fast. So I did my first fast. That was more, had intent, was health. So, and that was just a juice fast.
Yeah.
And the second fast, and that was around September, beginning of September. And
we're talking 2020?
2022.
Oh, 2022. Okay.
Yeah, last year.
Okay.
So November came around and I said, you know what? I got a holiday weekend coming up to take off work. And I said, I'm gonna do a dry fast, 3-day dry fast. So doing this dry fast, it came to me on the what I know now as being in the spiritual realm. I was given all the titles to the chapters, what the book was called, how it was formatted, what each part meant, why it meant that.
Yeah.
And then I was told to write it. They said the words will come to me. All the text will come to me now that I was given instruction. So I started writing the book on November 14th. And I finished the book on December 14th.
Wow.
And then I waited till after the new year to start going into publish because I was told that it needed to come with the new year, which my new year switched from January 1st to the spring solstice, which was March 21st. And it said that the book will come out in the springtime. I said the book will come out in the springtime because I'm trying not to lose everybody right here because it was a lot. I just unpacked a lot, but when you deal with yourself, when you start to go within yourself, anything that you will ever do or have done is already written. So it already exists. It's just for us to go and find that information, search ourselves to go find that information and get it and bring it back. And that's basically how the book came.
That's amazing. And I just want to go back to how it all began with you taking the time to turn inward and fasting. I think a lot of people have that intuitive nudge to do something for themselves. And it often starts with either mental health or physical health. And that leads them to some sort of spiritual connection. And for some people, a religious connection, right? And with that, I think the power that comes from, because as you know, I work in the Akashic Records, and so it's the library of your soul. It's the library of everything. And the most famous person, Nikola Tesla, is the person who worked in the Akashic Records that many people know. But the history is so much deeper and richer than that. And the power, I love the idea of allowing people to see where we have so much wisdom and creativity when we silence the noise long enough to listen to our soul, when we listen to what we have to say and we learn what our voice is saying and we learn what it is that we desire versus what everyone on the outside of us is feeding us or sharing with us, right? So I love that you were able to have that experience too, because I think that that's going to be helpful for a lot of people who are afraid to be alone, who are afraid to fast, who are afraid to do something for themselves because it's different or maybe not socially in their circles acceptable or normal, right?
And I never wanted to be alone. At all, and in the book I talk about, being an alcoholic and all that stuff, which I'm still an alcoholic and I'm grateful to this day that I am an alcoholic. Am I sober? Yes, I'm sober. I've been sober 15 months, but I'm just grateful for that. Thank you. Because I had to go through that to be here. And when I start getting that understanding that things is happening for me, not to me, the whole dynamic of how I view my reality switches. So, and that really brought me to understanding the or understanding or understanding when people say that multiple realities exist at the same time. Now I really get that. You know, it's not a physical thing that a lot of people think that it is. It's a mental thing. It's a spiritual thing. So just coming from the going back and looking at all the things that I did, self-medicating with the alcohol and all that good stuff, how that I was never present. And the most powerful moment for me is being present. Like right now, this conversation that's happening right now, being in this gives me chills because I'm present. I am aware that this is happening. I'm not drinking. I'm not, and I was a smoker, so I don't smoke, I don't drink. And I'm vegan now. So it's like a lot of things happen in my life is so much better for that because I'm not worrying about yesterday and I'm not even concerned about tomorrow because only thing that exists to me is right now, this moment. And I know that everything in this moment is perfect because even if something's going on in this moment that I don't necessarily agree with or maybe a negative energy, I know that because I live in a dualistic world, that it's a positive that's existing at the same moment. So all I do is just shift my focus from that negative to the positive and be positive about a negative situation. And it just makes everything better. And I don't have to drink about it. And I don't have to, self-medicate about it. So that's just that. And that's where I'm at. And it keeps me with my family, with like the relationship with my kids has changed so drastically, and and I can get into that a little bit too, when I had a conversation with my son one time. We were sitting, and he's 20 years old now, but we were sitting in the garage and he was probably about, I want to say 18. He was about to graduate high school. And we're sitting in the garage, and of course I'm drinking. And I asked him, I said, what's up with our relationship? Like, you don't never really open up to me. You don't talk to me. And he said, Dad, you've been here, but you didn't raise me. And that crushed me to my soul because I was thinking like, what do you mean? I couldn't understand what he was saying because I was stuck on a generational curse from my dad. Even though my dad wasn't there, I was overly there for my kids, which means I missed the whole moment of being present in the first place. So if they had an event, I was there. Whether I was inebriated or not, I was there. I was at home, but was I talking to them? Was I seeing about their concerns? Was I having conversation? Nah, I was just sitting in my chair, sipping my sip. Some friends would come over, and I would feel like just because I'm at home, I'm doing more than my dad did. But that's the thing is now that I'm carrying that same generational curse because I'm not really focusing on the point of being there. I'm focusing on the fact that my dad wasn't there. So when they say your thoughts are not your thoughts, that's what they mean by that. When your thoughts are not your thoughts, even though that I thought me being there was the reason, I wasn't. So fast forward time, now we have those conversations. He calls me every time he has a situation. So that when I say the dynamic of the relationship has changed, because the dynamic of me has changed. When I changed from the inside, everything on the outside of me had no choice but to change.
No choice. Oh, I have to, you hit me in my chest with some of that. And I know some of it we discussed previously before. But it hits different because just for the listeners to understand, so the commonality that we have in my story and yours is that we're both military veterans and we're both sober, we're both parents and things of that nature, right? And we've gone through this journey of awakening and being writers and really just diving deeper into wanting to be of service to other people so that they can evolve through this too, right? And when you were talking about drinking and sobriety, it just made me remember how I would also numb. Like I was present, I was here, but mentally, emotionally, I wasn't present. I was somewhere else because it was too heavy it was too much, it was too painful to feel, to be, evaluated or seen, or it's almost like a vulnerability, right? Like you are vulnerable when you're present because you're saying, I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing to have this exchange with you and for you to see me for what I am. And when you were talking about, I can't remember exactly how you said it, your thoughts are not your thoughts, and you were sharing about it being generational. I work so much with my clients on this. So I know it's not just me. I know it's not just you, but so many of us are in these cycles, almost like a hamster wheel, right? Where, especially when we become an adult or we get put in situations, because some of us became, in positions where we were doing adult things when we were still technically kids. We don't question, hey, is this my belief? Is this the type of life that I want to live? Are these my morals? Are these my values? Is this the person that I want to be? Is this who I want my kids to see me as? Because we're still surviving and we haven't paused long enough to realize it's safe to be present. It's safe to start healing these things. It's safe to start shifting your awareness on your thoughts and your patterns and how you show up. And I have chills, like listening to you talk and having these conversations is so healing for many generations. And I feel like this heaviness in my throat, and almost like I want to cry, just because it is such a personal experience, right, for each of us to go through. And until you are able to connect with people who've actually gone through that and are willing to just hold space and be like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you got to start. Like, it's a completely different experience because you let your guard down, like in situations and conversations where you feel safe, you let your guard down so that you can grow, so that you can shift your awareness. And I think with your book and with the work that you're doing, all of that is it's just expanding. And I think that is so beautiful. And it shows by your relationship with your son, and it shows by the work that you're doing and the people that you're helping.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
definitely I wouldn't change nothing. It's just it's so lovely. I know you had mentioned something in the book that you wanted to touch on, so we can get into that too.
Yes, I did read it. I read it. You guys don't have a signed copy, but I got a signed copy if you guys see that. So I'm not going to pin out exactly what you said because I want people to go read your book. Where can they get it? On Amazon, right?
It is available on Amazon on ebook and paperback copy on Amazon. It's also on Book Baby, which you can find that on my TikTok, and on my Instagram, which I put those out here towards the end.
Yeah, and I'll have everything linked as well. But you were just sharing, so y'all go get the book, but you had been sharing in the book about your upbringing and having to fight, and how when you finally decided to fight, you didn't win. You didn't necessarily win, but you wouldn't admit it, right? You wouldn't admit that you didn't win. And you had gone on to just share about how you had moved and how the relationships in your family had changed during that move, where your mom and dad were no longer living in the same house. Your brother, I believe, was still with your father, and you were with your mother. Did I get that right?
Yeah, my middle brother, Troy, he was back and forth
Okay.
when we moved back to Virginia. He was back and forth. So at one point, yeah, he was in Oklahoma and Tulsa, and I was in Newport News, Virginia. And my older brother, he was in Newport News, Virginia too at the time, but he wasn't staying at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a lot of dynamics going on with that, and then you know. But yeah, that was really what kicked off uh being alone. You know what I mean? So the that right there was really is what kicked it off, because when you that young and you're going through so many changes in different situations at the time, you just really want to just feel felt. You know what I mean? You just want to be
Seen.
acknowledged or feel like your presence
Mhm.
is is not. And if you're not getting it in the house, you're gonna go seek it wherever. You know what I mean? And that's kind of that's kind of what happened. You know what I mean? Basically. So a survival mode kicked in.
And I just want to say thank you for the vulnerability that you shared in this. And this is not a criticism about what I'm about to say. It's an observation about what you've shared, and just looking at it in how the dynamic changed with your parents, and that wound kind of started to bubble up and show with your mom, where you had made this kind of statement about, you understood, like, your brother teaching you how to hustle, you understood, how to fight and how to survive. And your dad was out there doing what he was doing. And your mom, she was, trying to keep food in the house for y'all, and all of these unique dynamics. But there was just this one sentence, and I wish I would have bookmarked the page. I thought I did, but I think my daughter stole my bookmark because she does that. Where you had said something about you didn't understand your mom's response to something. And it stuck out to me because the way that you kind of shut her down and her feelings and what it was she was processing in her survival mode is also what you explained about you, like who you had become and replicated in some form and fashion as you became a father, right?
Right.
And
So
so I was reading it, and it stuck out to me because, we had the conversation before I read the book. And so when I read it, I was like, this is part of his thing. This is part of his generational cycle, where not only does he have an opportunity to heal it for his kids, but he has an opportunity to heal it for his mom, for his father, for his lineage,
and
right?
it's crazy that you just brought that up because prior to me 2 weeks ago coming to Florida, my mom came to Tennessee.
Yeah.
So my mom came to visit me out there for a week, and this is the first time I seen my mom since I had wrote the book.
Yeah.
And I tried to brace her as much as I could because I
Yeah.
knew no one had really heard this side of my story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it
So
can be
we all
jolting for
went through it.
any of
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
we all went through it,
Yeah.
but everybody's story is their story. So
Exactly.
hearing it from me, I did make sure that my mother was the first person to read the book. I did do that.
Well, that's nice. That's
And
nice of you.
she couldn't talk to me the first day
Yeah.
because of how emotional she was. It wasn't a bad thing. It was just she was so emotional because she didn't see it from my point of view till
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
And so when she finally read the book and we finally talked about it, I mean, she was in tears. It was tears of joy. It was a lot of things, but she told me things about her that I never knew.
Yes.
And she said that that book opened up things for her that she now is processing from
Mhm.
her childhood,
Yeah.
and how she didn't even remember parts, like big portions of her childhood, and never told nobody. Um,
Mhm.
like she told me, she said, for a period of time, my mom didn't talk when she was a kid. For like a long time, she didn't talk
Mm.
because of traumas from her childhood. And so she was processing a lot of that. And it's crazy because now that she's read it and she's processing it, like you said, she told me, she said, Terry, this is a time I'm healing from some things too. And I told my mom, I said, we're healing together.
Yes.
We breaking this. We're doing this thing together. And she was like, she did ask me, she said, did you tell your dad about the book? And I said, no, I haven't told my dad about the book. I said, I haven't told my dad about the book because I have to have a healthy relationship with him. I have to hold a healthy boundary with him.
Yeah.
Um, because of the dynamic of our relationship. And I do that out of love because I don't want to go to a point where I was in resentment before.
Mm.
So I got to maintain that healthy boundary. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Having a healthy boundary against your family members, your loved ones. I
It's
know, like, do
necessary.
I love my dad? Love him to death, you know? And do I check on him? Yes, I do have to check on him. But when it comes to certain things, I have to protect my energy as well, too. You know what I'm saying? As well as his. So I'm doing this for me. It's not as a resentment. It's I know that when it's time, he'll read the book or he will know about the book.
Yeah.
But since I've been a kid, it's always been what he's interested in and everything. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of things that I had to heal from that. And I not too long ago, I did my own little personal retreat during the spring equinox. So it was around March 17th, 18th, or whatever. And the video's on my TikTok if y'all want to check it out. It's pretty dope. But I didn't know, and I was doing a a liquid fast at the time. So only was doing juices and tea and spring water. So over the weekend. And I didn't really know what that weekend was going to entail. I just knew that I went into it with intent to be grounded and spiritually connect with myself and and my higher power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it ended up becoming a release weekend. Like it was a lot of crying. It was a lot of, really just letting go of things. And I was out in the woods. I was all by myself, and I wrote down a lot of things that I had that I needed to let go of. So basically, I was really just working in and clearing a lot of blockages in the solar plexus. You know what I'm saying? In that chakra, really understanding that. But I knew going into the weekend, something was going to happen, but I didn't know where it was going to lead me. So I just let it happen, and that's what happened. So I had to let go of a lot of things, and I wrote down a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper. And one of the things I wrote down was daddy issues, right?
Yeah.
And I shook it up in a little bowl, and I was burning it off, and I was just picking them randomly. And the last one to pick was that one, because that's the thing I had the hardest time with.
Yeah.
And you probably noticed that really in the book, a lot of that is reference to the relationship between me and my dad. So, and I'm still working on some of those things, and I'm still healing from it, but I'm able to talk about it, and I'm able to understand it. And I know that that boundary that I have set with my father it's the process for me to heal. Because if I don't have that boundary, I don't know where I'm gonna set with in my healing process. So, you know, but I know I
And
got off on
healing,
that on the tangent.
no, you are perfectly fine. And healing is something that, you know, we see a lot of stuff online nowadays, and it's kind of moved away from the roots of what it initially was, whether it's an indigenous belief or cultural practice and things of that nature. But healing is continuous. It's not a starting point and a stopping point. And as we continue to heal and we continue to pull back the layers, we're able to experience things with fresh eyes, so to say, like a different lens or a different perspective, a different mindset, which allows us to either embody more grace, compassion, forgiveness, acceptance, whatever it may be, which spreads out, just like you shared for your mom and how she couldn't remember certain parts of her childhood, and you said she wasn't speaking for a part of it because of trauma. And the first person that popped in my mind was Dr. Maya Angelou, which I absolutely love her, and all of her work. And she had a stage where she wasn't talking for a long time of her childhood. And so I think that there's a lot of cultural and generational healing that is happening when we share our stories and we establish these boundaries. And it's scary to share your story. It's scary, it's intimidating, but it's necessary in order to heal. So I think what you're doing is incredibly brave, and it's inspiring for other people. And it's something that I think anyone who is almost looking for permission, I know I use this phrase a lot, but a lot of people in various stages are looking for permission to speak, to be heard, to share, to set the boundary, to do something completely wild and crazy or new for them, right? And so I think that your book really is a catalyst for people who are open to it. Like, to whoever's listening right now, like when you get this book, the resurrection, if I can get my words out, the resurrection of self, when you get it and it's in front of you and you start reading, if you're open to it, I think that it's really going to allow you the opportunity to see that healing is not linear. It's not a point A to point Z. It's definitely got ups and downs. And the thing that, because I'm an emotional person, like not on exterior, but inside, I'm a big softie. And I think what really hit home for me was seeing that a lot of my lived experiences parallel some of yours. And so allowing myself to say, you know what, the part of me that maybe I pushed down that I didn't think was worthy to share about or worthy to be seen or anything like that, you know, like she's not alone. Like that little part of me, that younger aspect of me, which most of the time is my inner teenager, like she's allowed to be heard and she's allowed to share as well. And that's what your book did for me when I was reading it. It allowed me to reflect, it allowed me to go inward, it allowed me to have that moment, right? And so I know that you have a hope for your reader. You have a hope for the people who find your book. And what do you think, or what is that, or what would you like to share?
You definitely just hit it on the nail on the head. The whole purpose behind that book, and I tell people this all the time, it wasn't nothing that had to do with anything monetary or nothing like that. That book is simply put out there. It's my story. But the reason I told it from the consciousness is because I might deal with 10 different situations, but I might deal with them all based off one trauma that happened to me. So that's
Mhm.
why I told it from the consciousness versus, my life story just as events happen, because then that book would have been like 9,000 pages. But I definitely the whole purpose behind that book is for the reader to ask themselves the same questions that I was asking myself in the
Yeah.
book, and draw their own answers,
Mhm.
and just to see that by you going within and healing yourself and really becoming aware of our emotions and aware of our thoughts and aware of why we are the way that we are versus I'm just that way, or this, that, and the third. Because one of the things I used to be like is, man, I'm my daddy child. What am I supposed to say? You know what I mean? And that, to me, that was like, not looking back at it now, it was the biggest cop out I could have came up with. You know what I mean? Like, once again, that goes back to that thoughts are not our thoughts type of deal. You know what I'm saying? So how far do you go back? Like, my father's father, my father's father's father. Like, how far does that go back? You know what I mean? Those thoughts, that's not your own thoughts. So I just really, the whole sole purpose of that book is just to get somebody to look within themselves. And I mean, that's the best way I can put it, is it's for them to do an internal uh inventory of
Inventory. Yeah.
themselves and work on it. You know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
can list every lot of things that's wrong with me, but if I don't work on it, it's pointless. You know what I'm saying? Like they say, knowledge is power, but really applied knowledge is power. It's not just the
Mhm.
knowledge. You need to apply that knowledge.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things I highlighted in my Alcoholic Anonymous book was one line, and it said, faith without works is dead. So you can have all the faith or all the spirituality or all that stuff that you want. If you don't do no work,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's not, nothing's gonna turn out the way that you want to turn out, and you're gonna keep running around on that hamster wheel, like you said. And I was
Mhm.
a little tired. I ain't gonna lie. For one, I don't even like running, so I had to get up off that hamster wheel for real.
I don't blame you. I do not blame you. I know I'm right there with you with a lot of the work that I've done and I try to do for myself and my daughter and that was another thing that your book did for me too, is because I'm a very conscious parent. Um and listening to you today and hearing your mom's reflection about how you didn't know some of the things that she went through, I think that was the lens that I was using when I read it, because I was looking at it through the lens of me, a mom who is single, who's divorced, who's running all cylinders on go all the time to make sure that my child is taken care of. And I have these little small pockets of time that are just for me, right? And processing mental health, physical health, emotional health, all of those needs, right? For not only another person, a household, myself, but also hearing you share her perspective allowed me to also see like maybe I'm not supposed to have everything a certain way for my daughter. Like, you know, when we have kids, we have dreams for them. I don't think anyone has a kid and says like, I hope that I raise a kid whose life is terrible or is awful, right? Like, I hope that I give this child trauma.
Right, right.
Right. But I know for me as a mom looking at it through that lens, I often think and I ask myself questions like, have I done this for myself? Have I done this for my daughter? Have I done this for my family? I'm a question asker. So as I'm reading your content, this is what I'm asking and thinking. And then when I heard that, it just really kind of shifted something in me too. Because that's a whole different segment that I guess we each get to navigate as we age and as we get older, if we're fortunate enough to have that opportunity. But I don't mean to go off on a big long tangent.
Oh, no, you good.
Can you share if you have anything in the works or anything that you're working on right now that you want to share with people?
So you mentioned the facilitator, me being a facilitator, divinity and masculinity. That is I am so ecstatic about that. Like that because just be able to create that space
Mhm.
for other people to come and heal, because it helps me heal too as well. But to see other people and give people that space, give people that opportunity that where they can come and relax as men. Because
Can you explain what it is so that our listeners can understand
so
what yeah.
divinity and masculinity is I created that spot based off an idea that I saw on a TikTok. Um
Mhm.
it's a group out in LA called Walk Good LA. I don't know if you heard of them. But they did a thing where it was all men in there and they was journaling and they was doing yoga.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
I was
Mhm.
like, you know what? I want to be a part of that. I'm gonna fly to California. I'm gonna fly to LA so I can attend one of these events.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all the research, I'm looking it up and everything. And then I went into my where I actually host Divinity and Masculinity
Yeah.
at the Blue Herbal Goddess in Clarksville, Tennessee. My soul sister Nicole, she owns a shop. And I was like, hey, I'm thinking about, and I was showing her the stuff on my phone. I was like, I'm thinking about flying to LA to go attend this. And she was like, why would you do that? And I was like, because I want to attend this. She said, no, you're not hearing me. Why you want to do that? I said, well, what you trying to say? She said, why don't you just do it here?
Yeah.
And that's how it started. That's how that started. So divinity and masculinity is basically understanding what it is to be a divine masculine,
Mhm.
understanding divine masculine energy, because we all have it, men and women, we all have
Mhm.
masculine energy and feminine energy. But
Yeah.
being a divine masculine is really understanding the femininity that's within you and
Mhm.
recognizing that and being able to apply that and bringing yourself into balance. And then
Yeah.
you want to do that by working through going inward and working outward. So that's what really a whole thing with divinity and masculinity is just understanding what it is to be a divine masculine so we can be who we need to be for our divine feminines out here in the world. Because when you balance yourself on the inside with the masculine and feminine energy, and then you meet or you with a divine feminine, then you can be and understand what it is to be that part of the energy that she doesn't have to be. Because a lot of problems in the world today, when you really look at it, is everything is overmasculated. Women is overmasculated, men are overmasculated, or they're undermasculated. It's really no set balance. So it's like, well, and what I mean by that is a lot of women right now, like yourself, or single parents. So you have to do a lot more than if the man or functional man was
Sure.
in the relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's some people out there that's just existing together. You know what I mean? Or the relationship is so toxic, you see it filter off into the kids.
Yeah.
And then their kids, so you passing that generational shit on. You know what I'm saying? So really just understanding what it is and giving men a safe spot where they can come and get that stuff out, where they don't feel like they have to be super hardcore all the time. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we walk in society and we might do the head nod or something like that. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Like, but to really bring brothers into a space or men into a space where they can, you know what, if I need to cry, I can cry around other men, or I can let loose, I can let go. I can talk about certain things that I can't talk about with my coworkers, with my homeboys, because they're gonna call me soft, or they're gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
You know, just be able to create a space for people to find themselves
And
and
peeling
journal
back the
about it.
layers of the toxic masculinity that society often highlights in media and things of that nature, right?
Right, right. And during the sessions, what I try to do is really get their minds going. Like the last session I did the root chakra. So I
Mhm.
talked about what blocked the root and when it's not unblocked. And we talked about those things. And I get them talking to the point where they start to think, where you see them thinking about that. And then I go into the meditation portion. And then I go into the journaling because I want them to write that down. And then they work on that to the next session. And that's how I'm trying, and that's how I'm gearing it and how it's going. So that's divinity and masculinity.
I love that. And the thought that's popping in my mind right now is pushing them to feel. I'm very intuitive in how I share, so you can take this or leave this, but just what I'm receiving is like men are often very in their head and logical, right?
Yeah.
Um, so allowing men that space to also, make sense of it, but then to push them into feeling it. Because women, we need men to be okay with their emotions so that they don't pour rage out on us, so that women are safe, right? And I know that's a completely different topic, but when men feel safe feeling and sharing those feelings, and women feel safe receiving someone sharing their feelings with them, and there's that exchange, there's that balance, there's that partnership, that is when the depths of healing are just like massive, just massive, 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 massive. And I have chills just thinking about it. And I love the work that you're doing because we need it. And I know a lot of men who could benefit from being in spaces like the one that you're creating. And I hope that more people create spaces like that and that it trickles outward. Um, but honestly, like I understand how you highlighted me being a single parent and being in that action masculine energy more often than in balanced energy, because it's true, it's real. And I don't think any man or any woman wants to be shoved in one direction of any energy, right? We all
Right,
want to
right.
feel seen and valued and appreciated and at peace and have that stability within our lives that allow us to really fulfill our purpose and be seen as who we are, and not just the title of husband or wife or partner or sister and brother and all of those other labels.
Because that's something that my wife talks about a lot now, is the fact that she says it feels like she can breathe now. Because before it's just she had to make sure, like she might be like, well, we need to make sure the kids get this. And then she would always have to go back and double check. So she was constantly having to do the masculine stuff, even with me being present.
Yeah.
So when she says it feels like a breath of fresh air now, or she feels like she can breathe, is because, you know, she doesn't have to do a lot of the things that should have been doing in the first place. But I felt like I was just there. I was there, and that was good enough. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and she was at the point like my mother, my close family, they was telling her to admit me,
Oh my.
and she wouldn't do it because she said, you know what, he's gonna have to do this on his own. She
Yeah.
knew me. She knew that she pushed me. I would have went and did that, and the day I got out of treatment, I'd have been right back to drinking because then I would have held a bigger resentment. And she knew that. But she also checked out. She was like, she couldn't do it no more.
Yeah.
And then the switch happened. And that's when she decided to stay. So, you know, you can be in a relationship, and I didn't mean to point you out or nothing like that. No, please don't get me wrong or nothing
No,
like
it's
that.
fine. I use
Um,
myself as an example for a lot of stuff all the time.
right. So, but I also wanted to point out, with my own relationship, that it can be two parents present and
Yeah,
still have the same imbalance and issues
yeah,
that a single father or mother have.
yeah,
So, and that's why it's so important that we understand and we really understand and we deal with and we heal and we continuously do the process of healing daily from past traumas,
yeah.
because that's how we keep them from going forward. And when
Yeah,
I
and
say going
breaking
forward,
down the
generational.
outside societal constructs of it all too, because I think what you've shared is with relationships and healing relationships and allowing the safe space for both man and woman to feel in partnership with each other. What is the popular thing? Like the thing that I often see now is like I was offended at first when I saw it, like no, but the single married woman thing, like I'm married but single because they feel like they're the only parent in the household, even though they're married. Um, that's a big thing right now, like where people are like, I'm a married single mom. And I'm like, no, you're married. Like talk to your partner. Like I had to work through that because after my divorce, I was like, that's BS. Like, what do you mean? And then now the latest one is weaponized incompetence, right? Where they show their partners playing dumb or doing less than or doing a poor job so that the mental load is put back on their other partner, which is typically the mom. And it started out with like Christmas stockings where it went viral, where like no one packs a mom's Christmas stockings, or they forget mom's birthday, or they gift her things that they want so that they eventually become the person who bought it, right? And I think with all of that correlates back to understanding yourself, creating those healthy boundaries, asking yourself those questions about, is this healthy for me? Is this healthy for my family? Do I want my kids to see this? And really exploring who you are as a person and as a parent, especially I can speak for a mom, right? I hear mom more than I ever hear Kendra. And so sometimes I slip into this stage of like, wait a minute, who is Kendra? Like, let me rewind, because I had a therapist share with me years ago, like, don't ever let your purpose become your child, because your child has their own purpose and they're going to leave. And that's why you see so many people with empty nesters syndrome and things like that, right? And so really allowing me to recognize like Kendra is a person. Kendra has a purpose, who also guides her daughter, who also guides her business, who also shows up and provides in these other capacities, but reminding myself that I'm allowed to have boundaries and healing and feel good and laughter and all of that too. So I think what you're sharing, both with the center and working with men in that safe container, right? Like I see it as a container, a sacred container, um, also creates for bigger discussion, for more discussion, and for greater change to happen. So I think that that's really admirable. I think it's really amazing. I know I'm over here on a tangent and it's storming outside. I don't know if you just heard the lightning and thunder that just cracked out there. But I feel like this is it's wonderful. It's wonderful on so many levels. And I just hope that everyone who taps in, finds you in Tennessee, or finds your book online, which everything will be shared around the podcast for people to just click and go, they're really going to be able to take some value away and really have that introspection that you hope your readers find. Is there anything else that you want to share with them before we close out?
Um, uh, I mean, I
Put
really
you on the
enjoyed
spot.
this. I I really enjoyed this conversation. And like I told you before, I felt the connection. When I came across your social media, and I just saw the work that you was doing and the things that you was doing, and I listened to your story, and I listened to a couple of the podcasts, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to reach out. I think that'll be a dope conversation to have. I really saw myself and a lot of the things that you were saying, like you mentioned earlier about being, veterans and things of that nature, and alcoholism, and just things of that. So it really resonated with me and resonated with my spirit to be and be in this union with you at this moment in time, and really just talk about it. And I think like we both got exactly what it was that we needed out of this conversation, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be plenty more to come.
Yes.
um so it's definitely been blissful. It's definitely been an honor. I can't wait to the next time, because it's definitely going to be that.
Yes.
And also to all y'all listening out there, I'm a Virgo and my moon is Capricorn, and I
And
think
I'm a
you're
Capricorn sun and a Virgo moon.
so there you have it. Um, that's why, certain things, like you said, nothing's by chance, nothing is by coincidence. Everything is divine purpose. Everything has a divine meaning. And I'm just glad that I'm able to understand what my purpose is in life, and be in alignment with that, and show that, and walk in it and be in it, because it's the best thing ever. Like I really enjoyed it. And I wish the best for everybody who's watching this, and of course, you, Kendra, always wish the best for you and everything. So
Oh, my dog. Thank you. And thank you to all of you who tuned in. My little spill. Make sure that you connect, hit subscribe. And if you want to touch bases, I'll have all of the links clickable below, as far as the book, so that you can make sure to get your copy, connect with Terry on social media. And if you want to book a discovery call with me and work together, all of that will be shared below. Know that you are welcomed, you are seen, you are valued, and I appreciate you being here for this episode of our Soulpreneur Life podcast. So I will see you next week. Thank you for being here.